So like the first one was like this kid who had a spider and basically the spider killed his parents and he didn't really tell anybody. And the police found him. And also there was like this side plot that the ice cream man was like this werewolf. It was very strange.
You just said a lot of words that did not process in my brain.
Yes.
There was like a spider and then the ice cream man was a werewolf. Period. I'm following.
I'm so bad at giving synopsises, but like it's just a weird fucking book. It's a weird book.
I mean, like, with the content that you described, I feel like that was probably a really good synopsis because
that's fair.
Was wild. Welcome back to the Caffeinated Comic Club, where Marsh and I talk about comics and other pop culture related things. This is a spoiler-heavy podcast. We get deep into the nitty-gritty of what happens into these books, and currently we are reading Mark Waid's Fantastic Four run, which is Marsh's favorite favorite Fantastic Four run of all time.
Correct.
What are you drinking today, Marsh?
Currently, I have 3 drinks on my desk. So first, I have the rest of my Liquid Death Sparkling Energy drink. It is called Scary Strawberry. And then I have the rest of my Pepsi Zero Sugar. And then I have an unopened can of Diet Coke Lime.
Always hit me with that Diet Coke Lime. Making me so deeply jealous.
Actually, I'm thinking about when I send you your... No, that would be dangerous. I was going to send you 1 or 2 with your books, but that would be precarious.
With this heat, the Alabama heat, girl, they could explode.
That would be precarious.
I also have 3 drinks today. I am finishing up a White Monster Zero Sugar energy drink, which I've been obsessed with for the past 2 days. I don't know if it's going to be a recurring thing, but they are very big and very good. I am drinking also a regular Diet Coke that I have squirted lime juice in.
Ooh.
So, did I buy a little plastic lime squeeze juice container thing? I did. So, there's that. And then also a big-ass water. I'm drinking a big-ass water because I have to stay hydrated. But
I'm glad somebody is, because I'm not.
If I didn't have to sing so many shows this week, I probably wouldn't be drinking water as much as I am. But I could feel it. Like, I could feel that I was, like, starting to lose my voice a little bit. And I'm like, I only sing 3 songs in the show. And I was like, girl, I gotta do something. I ain't letting my little understudy go on. In case you haven't noticed, for our 10 subscribers on YouTube, which is so funny to me. I love that there's 10 of you guys who are really committed to the videos. We're not on video this week because of internet connectivity issues on my side right now. So we're doing audio this week, and hopefully next week everything will be back to normal. But enjoy the blank screen and the logo.
Gare needs to get with what is it? Elon Musk Internet, whatever that is called.
What is Elon Musk Internet?
Oh, what is it? Hold on.
I'm so disconnected from the world. I know comics and gay.
What's funny is Chris talked about it the other day, and I was like, I'm sure he's heard of it. Apparently not. It's called Starlink. Yeah.
What? Is it a satellite?
Yeah. So, like, it's reliable, high-speed internet from space. So...
Googling.
Yeah.
No upfront hardware costs. Get online in minutes. What does that mean? Get online $39 a month for the first 4 months. I'm going to call one of my Republican cousins and ask them to sign up for me. I do need to upgrade my internet. Like, the internet I have is the only thing that's offered. I live in the woods somewhere in Alabama, for everyone listening. And the internet out here is so bad, but I have the highest speed. And the highest speed is 15 megabytes a second download. Is that not insane? It's like I live in 2004 while the rest of you are 14 years ahead. 12 years ahead? I can't do simple math. Again, gay.
I did check your state at least, and it's blue. So it is available to you to get the service.
Okay. I will look into that more then. Speaking of things not needed for the internet, what are your pulls for the week? You like that? You like that segue?
I did. My pulls for the week are Absolute Wonder Woman number 19, which I still haven't read 17 or 18, so I might as well just wait till Wednesday and just read all 3 of them at once. Captain America number 9, which I'm pretty sure I haven't read 7 or 8 either. Corpse Knight number 1 from Image. Cyclops number 3. Detective Comics number 1008, Exquisite Corpses number 12, The Flash number 32, which Ryan North is on this run, and I really liked his first issue a lot. So I can't wait to read this one. A Green Lantern number 34 with Kyle Rayner back as the Green Lantern. Marvel slash DC Spider-Man vs. Superman number 1. It's the Marvel version. It is what it is. The Peril of the Brutal Dark and Ezra Kane Mystery number 3. This is fantastic. Gare, I need you to get on this. This is a really good story. And then Rogue number 4. So a lot of books this week, unfortunately, for my wallet. But what about you, Gare? What are you pulling?
Probably a lot of books as well. I'm also getting that Spider-Man Superman, the Marvel version. I'm hoping for the Peach Momoko variant with Supergirl and Spider-Gwen on it, but I will settle for the Lois Lane Spider-Woman cover. If it's a man, I guess it'll be fine. I don't know. It's really at the hands of my LCS. Cyclops number 3, Wolverine number 19, Rogue number 4, Sorcerer Supreme number 5. That's for Marvel. For Image, Exquisite Corpses number 12, and I'm pretty sure that's the only thing I pull from Image, other than Skinbreaker, which thankfully is not coming out this week. And then DC. Oh my god, do I not have anything for DC? No, I don't. Wow.
You're not pulling
Wow.
Absolute Wonder Woman? Really? I thought you were.
I am. I'm just not in Comic Geeks.
Okay. I got you.
So yeah, Absolute Wonder Woman as well. Absolute Flash is only 14 issues in if I wanted to be crazy, but yeah, I probably won't do that. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for the books this week. I'm very excited for Rogue and for Cyclops. I think Wiccan ends next week. I'm really excited for that. We'll see if they print my letter next week, because this is...
Oh, that's exciting.
I hope, but you know what? It's fine if they don't. Me being like, I don't care. You don't have to invite me.
Is Sorcerer Supreme, is that a mini, or is that like a ongoing?
I wish I could tell you. I think it's an ongoing.
Okay. I was curious.
I think it's an ongoing. I haven't read a single issue yet, but I need to, because like Wiccan is in it as well. I just started getting them for the Russell Dauterman covers because they're just absolutely freaking beautiful. Because like this new Wanda design he designed, so he's doing all the covers, and I just love the way he draws that
That's
family specifically. And yeah, I need to get caught up. Actually, I think I probably should try to read the first 4 issues tonight, if I'm being real with you, because I think issue 5 is like a big Wiccan one. I could be wrong, but before we get started on Fantastic Four, is there anything else that you would like to add?
I don't think so.
Same, me either. I don't think I didn't get to I didn't read anything but Fantastic Four, so I don't really have a lot to talk about this week when it comes to the comic book world. Is there comic news? There is something. There is Buffy. Oh my god, you broke the news today that they finally have a release date for Buffy.
They
and
do.
DNA, David Nakayama is doing the cover A's for it. What?
Well, he's doing the first one. I don't know if he's doing all of the cover A's, because they only have the first issue up right now on Comic Geeks. But yes, he's doing the first one, and it looks gorgeous.
I know the artwork is by Stephen Byrne, and it's coming out from Dynamite. Remind me of who the writer is for Kelly Thompson. Actually, it's Kelly Thompson of Birds of Prey fame. Am I right? She wrote Birds of Prey?
Yes. And she did the Hawkeye Cape Bishop run.
Oh, period. Okay.
And she's writing Absolute Wonder Woman.
I said of Birds of Prey fame, as if Absolute Wonder Woman isn't the second biggest book out there right now. Crazy. Listen, I just be reading.
She also created Jeff Landshark, I think. Wait. Wait.
If that's the case, that is a huge flex.
Wait.
Some man out there is shaking right now. His knees are shaking.
Yeah, no, I was right. Jeff Landshark was
period.
created by writer Kelly Thompson and artist Danielle Di Nicarulo. I totally butchered that. I apologize. But yes.
You can unclench your knees, whichever man you were listening. She was right.
I was pretty sure that I was right when I said it, and I was like, hold on, I have to check. I don't need people coming after me, man. I'm very excited.
Like, we knew that there was a new Buffy series coming out, and like we've both been talking about Buffy a lot lately, but like I feel like you told me that it was coming out like months and months ago, and then I'd forgotten about it until your post today, and I was like, oh my god.
So I had it on my that was a surprise that I didn't know about, but I had it on my like pull list for Comic Geeks, and they finally updated the date, So, but I originally found out about it because I was looking at Kelly Thompson's, just like her writing, like what she's writing, and it said Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I was like, what? Hold on. And so it's been on my list since like the beginning of the year, if not before then. No, before then. I knew about it before I moved. So yeah,
I was
it was
about to
like
say, I felt like you
October.
told me around like Thanksgiving or Halloween
Yeah,
or something.
yeah,
It's so exciting. I'm so ready to be in a new era of Buffy, especially since we just lost the TV show. I think that this will be a nice void filler.
yeah. Agreed, agreed, agreed.
But moving on to current events or events from 2000 and whatever year this was, we continue on with our read through of Mark Waid's Fantastic Four. We're starting with issue 509 today. A little recap. Last week was really sad. Everyone was dealing with the fallout of Doctor Doom kidnapping or sending Franklin to hell and everything else that came with that. It was really, really sad. I recommend you read it if you want to cry. And then Doctor Doom did some more stuff and Ben ended up dead. And that's your recap for the week. There'll be more of a recap as we go through because a lot of the events in the last issues pertain and I don't want to like tread over the same ground a lot. But because we're going to do that naturally anyway. But with issue 509, we start with a flashback to the battle in Doom's Castle 6 weeks ago, where Reed is trying to save Ben's life. And Nick Fury pops up and is like, we'll handle it from here. Your ass is under arrest. And he keeps screaming at everyone to help. Reed does. Reed keeps screaming at everyone to help. He knows that he can do it as long as they work fast. And Sue is like, Reed, honey, you've been trying this for an hour. Ben is dead. That was horrific. I was like, cool, great, love this, awesome. As I was reading, I was like, we're just going to start with me crying.
It was honestly though, it was a lot because it's Reed's best friend, right? And we talked about this last week. It's Reed's best friend, and he had to shoot him to save Johnny. It's a whole mess. And the fact that Sue's trying to pull him out of saving Ben, like you've been at this for an hour, like there's no saving him.
Yeah, that revelation was that was so hard to see and then see him realize how long it had been and how they had lost him. Just horrible, horrifying. So then we cut to 5 weeks later with Reed passed out in his lab surrounded by notes and math equations where he's been trying to figure out how to bring Ben back. We see a letter on one of the screens from the Pentagon that's saying that they have Ben's body and are using it for science. And I was like, that's fucked. But it's apparently what Ben wanted. It was a part of some agreement that Ben made.
So fucked.
While Reed is asleep, he's dreaming about Doctor Doom, it seems. And he's like also, like, I think maybe dreaming about equations. And he wakes up and he says, oh my God, that's it. And then we cut to the present day, which is 1 week after that, where Johnny and Ben are working in a shop, like a mechanic shop, and just kind of giving each other shit like they always have. And then someone screams, "Storm!" And Johnny is pulled out of his daydream, and we see that he's actually working as a mechanic, and Ben is not there because Ben is in fact dead. And Johnny's boss is just like screaming at him, mad, saying, I knew I shouldn't have hired you. The Fantastic Four just ruins everything. Like, it was just fucked. Like, I was like, God, I know I said I wanted more of the Johnny trauma last week. I regret it. I regret it. There's so many things about that statement that I regret as we will go through these issues. I don't want Johnny to be in pain. He is like a little boy to me. He is like Franklin, especially in this run. And I'm like, that's a child. I need to leave him alone. Like, let him do his work. So Johnny eventually leaves work and calls Sue, who is staying with Alicia. Her and the kids are staying there because Sue thought it would be good for all of them. But the grief is like worrying her, and she doesn't know if Franklin and Val should be there because Alicia is like deep in this well of grief, and she keeps sculpting statues of Ben all around this little room in the apartment, and she's crying a lot, which, you know, valid. They were not together anymore, but like, you know, like if your big love died out of nowhere, like it would be a fucking lot. And so she's been building all these statues, and Sue doesn't really know what to make of that because she doesn't want to leave her because she won't stop making the statues. Sue and Johnny end up having an argument. He asks Sue for some money. She's like, no, you know, I can't do that. And then that turns into anger, his anger for Reed. And she's like, you should talk to him. And he's like, no. She's like, well, if you change your mind, call me back. And that's where we get to where the last issue ended. I don't know if y'all remember, but Reed left Sue a voicemail letting her know that he was going to bring Ben back to life. So we see the direct aftermath of that. Sue hangs up the phone and calls Johnny right back, and then they both fly to where Reed is and demand to know what he is doing. Reed tells them that there is a brainwave in Ben's body, that he's not fully dead because, oh yeah, by the way, he stole the body from the Pentagon and has been running tests on it. I was like, how did you do that? How did you get away with that?
It's Reed.
But
it's Reed.
you know, he's the smartest man alive. He tells them that despite there being a brainwave, Ben's consciousness, or life essence essentially, is actually on a different plane of existence. And Johnny's like, he's gone to heaven. And Reed is like, that's a crudely non-secular way of putting it. That made me giggle. A crudely non-secular way of putting it. I love him so much. And that all he can say is that Ben's energy has transformed / relocated somewhere else. Therefore, it's simply a matter of retrieving it and returning it to the body. Reed then tells them that someone invented a machine to do this a long time ago in college, and he tried to help them by pointing out its design flaws, and it ended up blowing up in their face. Dr. Doom. This is Dr. Doom's origin story of him getting disfigured. So Reed has recreated it and fixed the algorithm, and the three of them decide to go find Ben in heaven. And that is the end of the first issue. I was not prepared for this type of storyline. I don't know what I thought was going to happen, how they were going to bring Ben back, but I did not consider that we would be going to heaven.
That's fair. That's valid, because that's a weird place to go, you know? I mean, it's Reed though, right? Reed is a very ambitious person. And if he can go and kind of somewhat go on an adventure to get his friend back, he's gonna do that.
He do love adventuring. That is true.
He do love adventuring. I do like in this issue though how we get to see everybody kind of deal with their own grief though in their own separate ways. Because Johnny is like talking like Ben's still there, even though he's not.
That's how he's coping.
I know.
That was so beautiful. No, I know, you know, I was like saying it to the audience. Like he is like, he keeps having these daydreams about Ben, and in one of them, Ben's like, kiddo, you know, I'm not here. And Johnny literally says, I know, but this is how I'm coping. And I was like, fuck. Like, yeah. Johnny, they so often, and Johnny himself make jokes about like, he's like, I'm not smart, or like things like that. But like emotionally, he is pretty smart. I think he just loves being the class clown. And again, I'm someone who does not read a lot of Fantastic Four. And you know him way better than me. But I think that there's such a rich layer of maturity to Johnny that is often hidden by jokes and hidden by like silly things or like dumb decisions. And I don't know. He's just like a precious small, I don't know. I just want to hold him in my hand.
A cinnamon roll? Is that where we're going with this?
Yeah. Oh my God. Tumblr speak.
Exactly.
He is a cinnamon roll. Like, I just adore him. I didn't mean to dive in, but you saying that like about him coping, I just love him. But anyways, yeah. So we see Johnny coping, and go ahead from there.
And then Reed copes by doing what Reed does and delves into his work trying to figure out a solution to the problem. He finds a solution, obviously. We don't really get to see Sue grieve, and that like I'm kind of upset about, because like they're kind of best friends too. Like, we kind of see it, but not quite like Johnny or Reed or Alicia, who, like you said earlier, is, like, just building many, many statues of Ben because she doesn't know any other way to cope, which is honestly tragic. I love Alicia Masters so much, and just, yeah, that was a lot for me.
Yeah, same.
But, I don't know, it's all beautiful, just being able, like I said, that's one of my favorite things, is to see, like, the emotional repercussions of what happens. And, like I've said multiple times during this run, Mark Waid does that so well. And so just seeing this issue too, you know, is just so great. But man, I need to breathe, Mark. We need some breathing time. We need some happy moments.
Like, or at least send us some lorazepam or something, you know, in the mail, like with the issue. I think that's a very poignant thing for you to point out, that we don't really see Sue grieving, because Sue took the kids to Alicia so that they could lean on each other and help each other. But Alicia's grief is so deep that Sue's kind of taking care of her like she is her kids. So she's kind of doing what Johnny did throughout that storyline and just taking care of everyone else. Like she is the mother of all mothers. And while I kind of wish we could have seen her ruminate on Ben. I also feel like it probably would have wrecked me more than anybody else.
That's
Just
fair.
their
That's
dynamic is the one that like what like just the idea that they like go to the movies together. Like back at the beginning of this run when they were at the movie and they got attacked by the code monster that Reed or that Franklin accidentally made. Like they
mm-hmm.
were just chilling at the fucking movies. Just
Mm-hmm.
two besties. And I'm like, I don't know. I love that vibe. So I am a little grateful that Mark was like, I'll give them a break. I'll just let Sue not process.
To jump off that though, I did really like how you could see when Reed was like, "We're just gonna go to heaven and go get him from heaven." Sue was kind of like, "This doesn't seem like it's a very good idea." Like she didn't come out and say it, but you could see it drawn on the panels. You could
Mm-hmm.
see it by like how she was reacting. Like, is this really a good idea? Should we be pulling Ben from heaven? And so I don't know. I love Sue so much, and just the way that she's like, is this the right thing to do? This is wrong. Like, we shouldn't be doing this. He might be in a better place, essentially. I think that's a good, like, food for thought, especially because you and I are Buffy fans, right? So, like,
Mm-hmm.
we've seen it happen before.
Mm-hmm. The thing that I like about Sue being wary is that oftentimes it seems, from what I've read so far, is that Sue doesn't want to just outright tell people that they're wrong. She wants to give them a chance to figure it out, but I've noticed that she's like, okay, I'm gonna step in and tell you why you're wrong. And I really love, she's like, I'm giving these men a chance. And then she's like, you know what? Like there's like a dialogue later on in this arc that she and Reed have
Mm.
where I was like, see, she knew, and now she's telling him why he's wrong. And it's just, I just think it's great that she like she has hope that he's going to get there. And then when it's too late, or when it's almost too late, she's like, hey, let me tell you why
Actually.
this is
Hold
your
on.
problem. So, issue 510 starts with the three of them, Reed, Sue, and Johnny, landing in this new space that could potentially be heaven. Reed says that his theory is that they'll each perceive the environment according to their own pre existing theological conceptions, which was a lot for me personally as Garen to process. I was like, huh? What do you mean? Like, all three of you are going to see different things?
Right.
Very quickly, though, that is debunked immediately when hundreds of angels with flaming swords and hoods fly up and attack them. They start to have a battle, but then one of the hoods gets ripped off, and we see that they do not have any faces. Like the faces on fire, and it says, "You don't belong here," and then the angels leave. They were just sent that way to send them a message. That was creepy as fuck. That was
It's
creepy as
terrifying,
fuck.
dude. It was terrifying.
Like hundreds of angels attacking them with big ass swords. I was like, this is too much for me already. Johnny's like, what are we going to do now? And Reed's like, well, we go get what we came for. And they start the journey to try to find Ben. We cut to Ben not very far away in his human form, standing with another person that we do not know who it is at this point. They're in front of this large, gigantic, beautiful, ornate gate that is currently closed. Ben is like, please tell me that they're turning around. And then the dude that's with him is like, no, they're not. And Ben's like, okay, well, then let me talk to Reed. And the other guy is like, I can't let you do that. We'll just have to hit your friends harder once they're completely through the veil and hope that sends them packing. There's a reason that no one's admitted up here without a hand stamp from St. Peter. And I was like, who in the fuck is this man? So, like, when you read it the first time, did you know who it was? Or
No.
did you have any inklings of who it could have been? Okay, well, good. I'm glad I
No.
wasn't super lost then.
No. I didn't. I didn't think. No.
Okay, I have more questions about that after the reveal, so I'll come back to that.
Okay.
Back to the trio. They've made their way to some like type of floating bridge where like all the pieces are just like floating in the air so they can't cross it. So Reed stretches and starts pulling the pieces down so they can cross it. I think Sue maybe was using force fields to help, but like I wrote that Reed did it. And so he starts pulling the pieces down and they start to cross the bridge. Doing this, Reed and Johnny start arguing. Reed accuses Johnny of blaming him for Ben's death, and Johnny tells him that, yeah, like if he'd have kept them all on the same page, maybe it wouldn't have happened. And then Reed was like, maybe if you'd backed away from Doom like I told you to, it wouldn't have happened. That's all you had to do, and now my best friend is dead. And I was like, fuck, I hate how upset they all are. I do not like them talking to each other like this. It goes back to what we talked about last week. Like, you are at your worst when you're upset with your family. Like, you will say
Mm-hmm.
the absolute worst thing, and that was rough. Rough.
Yeah, Reed has some big feelings.
He does.
Reed has big feelings. And this is really like the first time we see him kind of like confront those feelings. Not in a healthy way, right? Because again, we're dealing with family and you don't ever deal with your emotions in a healthy way with family.
Mm-hmm.
But I just like a part of me felt bad for Johnny, but then like also like on the other hand, Reed is right. If he would have just backed away, this whole thing wouldn't have happened. And again,
Mm-hmm.
that's hindsight. Right? Like you know what happens afterwards, but you can tell Johnny is also deeply hurting, especially after that outburst from Reed. Johnny loves Ben too,
Mm-hmm.
and so just I don't know. It just makes me sad. It
Mm-hmm.
makes me real sad.
Me too. And Johnny does say that to Reed. He says he was my friend too, and I would do anything to have him back. And Reed kind of just brushes him off because it's a very intense moment. And Sue is like, Reed, you don't have a monopoly on this grief. That's why we're all here. And then she tells him that they both just need to stay focused and continue on the journey. So they keep crossing the bridge, and once they get across, suddenly they're in a room with many different versions of Franklin and Valeria. And they realize that it's all the days of their lives, all the very best days of Franklin and Valeria's young lives. And I'm going to put it over to you to talk about this for a second.
Well, I guess I sent you a photo and told you that I was crying about it.
Yes, but the thing is that I read it maybe like an hour before you texted me about it. And like when I read it, I had already written the note that you were going to talk about it. There's a few places in here where I was like, Marsh monologue. I wrote Marsh monologue on a couple of different spots.
No, like this just like, and again, I bring it back to because I have Reed, right? Like it hit me in an emotional spot that didn't hit me the first time I read this, right? Like being able to like relive the like best moments of your life with your child, especially like at Valeria's age, 'cause that's kind of how old Reed is right now. Like I was just thinking about like all of the things that Reed's done. Like, you know, he learned how to eat, he learned how to walk, he learned how to stand up on his own, like all of these things. And like being able to see them again at that time, just like it made me super emotional. And just the way they look all happy and like Reed and Sue just look content and happy and they're not worrying about anything. And even Reed says, you look so relaxed. And Sue says, kids are accident magnets. It's nice to be someplace where they can stand positively no chance of skinning their knees or bumping their heads. And let me tell you, kids are accident magnets. Like Reed can walk, right? He can't walk very well, but he can walk. Yesterday at Target, he hit his foot on the wheel of the cart and fell, but he couldn't catch himself. He hit his head so hard on the floor at Target, you could hear the thump, like from a couple feet away. And he was fine. Don't get me, like, yes, he hit his head, but he was completely fine. But like, that happens all the time. And there isn't anything you can do about it because you can't like helicopter them and like make sure that you keep them safe all of the time. But I can't even imagine being them in this moment right now, knowing that my kids are safe. I don't have to worry about anything happening. I was just super emotional about it, and I don't know why, but I mean, I do know why. But it was a lot. It was a lot of emotions that I had reading the first couple panels of this, and then as we get through it more and more, they're talking about after what I said about their kids being safe. Reed says, or being possessed by Victor Von Doom. And Sue comes back and says, Reed, you make this team as safe as you can. And then he comes back and says, Ben makes it safer. And it's just a lot because Ben does make them safer, right? Because he's big and he's a rock and he's honestly their rock, right? Like that's what the team is missing right now is their rock. They don't know how to function without it. Mm-hmm. Which is why I think that they're so painstakingly trying to get him back, even if it's from getting him from heaven. But then that brings another kind of argument between Reed and Sue, where Sue's like, don't worry about Ben's job. Worry about yours. Are you sure about this expedition that we're on? And Reed's like, as sure as I can be. And he immediately gets interrupted by Sue and says, that's not enough this time. And this is probably one of my favorite speech bubbles, the next one that I've ever read of Sue's. I just love Sue so much, especially because she can call Reed out on his bullshit.
This is the moment that I was talking about earlier. Is it the Dr. Frankenstein moment?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
Sue goes, Reed, no one ever gives you the Dr. Frankenstein speech, so I will. Maybe there truly are some mysteries man wasn't meant to solve. It's so easy to lose sight of that around someone with your brilliance. But I've had a bad feeling about this mission from the start, and it's not improving. And the fact that, yes, other people on the team can call him out on his bullshit, but Sue hits it so perfectly when she does it.
Hmm.
And she's not wrong. Like, maybe there are things that aren't meant to be solved. Reed is the smartest man in the world, potentially in the universe, and maybe some things aren't meant to be solved. Maybe we're not supposed to bring back people from heaven. Maybe we're not supposed to do all of these certain things. And she brings up a good point. And it's just a good way to ring in somebody who wants to have all the knowledge in the world. Kind of to bring them back to that touchstone, like, is this truly what we need to be doing right now? But it's just it was this was a good panel. But then we head into They've Lost Johnny, and then I will let you pick up from there. Unless you had anything to add. I apologize. Do you have anything to add on
No,
these panels?
I'm so glad you talked about it. I love hearing you talk about these characters. And yeah, like this was a part where I'm like I said in my notes there are multiple times where I'm like Marsh because I'm like hoping that you'll jump in. I've started to like figure out like what parts hit you when we're reading things. It's
That's
so
fair.
wild to get to know someone by buddy reading, but and doing a podcast. But anyway, no, I'm glad you talked about it. I all of the things that I were going to say were about the Dr. Frankenstein scene, and I kind of
Mm.
said it earlier where I was like, she lets him figure stuff out and jumps in when she feels that she needs to rein him in. You know,
Mm-hmm.
she's telling him that she's uncomfortable and she doesn't know, and yet they persist. You know, and I think it's a nice balance for him to keep him in check because we know what happens when he doesn't have anyone to keep him in check. He takes over Latveria and his best friend dies. So it's like to the extreme. So Johnny is missing and he shouts out. So Reed's like, I don't remember which one said it, but they were like, you were supposed to be watching him. And it was just very funny because once again, like Johnny is like, he's just a 7-year-old, just like Franklin.
They said it together.
Yeah. Oh, that's what it was. Okay. Period. So they follow his voice and they like walk through this doorway and they find Johnny at a campfire with his and Sue's dead parents. Reed gets to meet their mom for the first time, and apparently he already knows the dad. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know anything about the dad, but yeah, so they're there and they have a little lovely moment with them, but then they tell them that they've come to warn them that they need to leave before he starts roughhousing. And they're like, "Who?" And then they're like, "Too late." And a giant red wave of a river of blood comes through the woods where they are and takes Johnny, Sue, and Reed out, takes them somewhere else. This is where we cut back to Ben and his friend outside of the gate, where now there's like this door that's made of a bunch of different technology. It has like a screen on it, and Ben's friend tells him that he has to be the one to find a way to open the door. Like that's the whole point. He can't just let Reed do it. And then Ben says to the guy, please don't hurt my friends. I'm going to figure out a way to do it." The trio manage to get out of the river of blood, but suddenly they're attacked by more of those flying angels, except this time they're tiny and there's thousands of them. A swarm of tiny angels. Reed tells Sue and Johnny to keep fighting because they have to for Ben, because he's counting on them. And then a hand reaches out and I don't remember, what does Ben say here? Because it cracked me up.
Why is it always me that's got to do the heavy lifting around here?
And he pulls them out of the pit up to where he is. And I will say this, it is so strange seeing Ben without rocks. He is very, very hot. But it is strange to see him without his rocks. And I kept being like, who is this? Because his friend looks like him a lot too. So I was like, which one is Ben? So, anyways, he pulls them out and he tells them that they are, in fact, in heaven. And it is good to be together again one last time. Reed is like, no, Ben, you don't understand. Your body is still alive on Earth. You don't belong here. And this is when Ben's friend jumps in and says, that's true, isn't it? And Reed immediately recognizes him as Ben's big brother Daniel that died when Ben was a little boy. Okay, so what is the lore? I did not look up the lore. I was like, I'm just gonna let Marsh summarize it for me and everyone else, because I was like, okay, didn't know this, didn't know. I thought had no clue you had a family.
So yes, so he's Daniel Jr. So their dad's name is Daniel. So it's Daniel Jr. And he was actually killed in a knife fight with the Thompson Avenue gang. Yes. So and
Another
he
gang?
yes. And he was also the leader of the Yancey Street gang, which is why he got in a knife fight with the Thompson Street gang. And yeah, basically he died from the knife fight. The family fell apart, and Ben grew up and then ended up taking Daniel's mantle as the Yancey Street gang leader.
And then Ben turned into a rock? That's
Yeah.
traumatized. I understand why Ben is always talking about those damn rocks now. He's had a hard life. Okay.
And
that's fucked.
His dad was an abusive alcoholic.
Holy shit, Marsh. Okay, well, with that information, gang, that I regret asking for, Reed immediately recognizes Daniel and starts accusing him of trying to sabotage them because he thinks that Daniel wants Ben to stay in heaven with him. And Ben's like, no, you got it wrong, Stretcho. We're not technically in the promised land yet because of this door that's stopping us from entering. And Daniel then tells Ben that Reed is, in fact, the only person who can open it because he created it. And Reed's like, what? And then he looks at the door and he's like, yeah, okay, I did create this door, didn't I? And that's the end of the issue. So something that happens a lot through this arc when it comes to Daniel is that he'll say one thing to Ben and then later he'll say like the opposite. And I'm like, is this them just trying to confuse me in particular? Or is he like, is Ben just like, I don't understand why like saying one thing and then the other, and it's never really explained. Am I just reading it wrong?
I mean, I think they're assuming what the problem is more than they know what the problem is, right? Like they think that they need Reed to open the door, but then obviously later on we find out that isn't the case.
Okay.
So I think it's more of they're not sure what exactly they need to progress forward. Unless I could be wrong, and maybe Daniel does know what they need, and maybe he's knew that Reed could take him back to his body. I was also confused, to be honest.
Okay, I'm glad that I'm not alone because I was just like, huh? What? Like I felt like Trisha Paytas outside of the Chick-fil-A trying the chicken sandwich for the first time. Like I was like, what is going on?
I don't even know what that reference is.
I'll send you a video later. One of our listeners is gay and knows. I'll send you the video later. Issue 511. The next issue starts with Ben telling Reed that the reason why the door is there is because Reed has been keeping his body alive back in his lab. And he tells him that he's not stuck there. He's in heaven. He's stuck on Earth because Reed won't let him go. And that was hard to read. I'm not gonna lie. I was sad. So then Sue is like, so we came here for nothing? And Ben says, no, not exactly. You came to say goodbye. And then Ben tells Reed to pull it together because he needs him to get him through to heaven. Just rough. So then Ben tries to like make a joke about putting he's like, Reed, get to work, because who else is going to tell Johnny about the naked photos of him on the internet, like insinuating that Ben released nudes of Johnny, which is hilarious given the pie saga of the Yancey Street gang when it was really Johnny. Just the pranks, very different things, but
it's not
still
a prank.
it's not a prank, but in 2003
you know what? You know what though? You're not wrong.
In 2003,
you're not wrong.
People were sending freaking group. What were those called? Chain messages of like girls and boys that you did not know and sitting next to you.
I have forgotten about the chain message emails. That is craziness.
Yeah, showing our age.
Unlocked.
Listen, the internet was fresh and kind of new, and we had all gotten cell phones at too young of an age. It was
the Wild Wild West. Oh, Wild Wild West.
Yeah, it was. So anyways, Ben makes this joke about putting Johnny's nudes on the internet, and then Johnny goes full flame and attacks him, but not because of that. He's mad as fuck that Ben is like, no, I want to go to heaven. And he's like, this has to be some kind of a trick, because Ben would never roll over that easy. And he calls him a coward for giving up. And Ben is like, kid, it's my time, fair and square. It's not up to me. And because Johnny is full of rage and Reed is full of grief and Sue is full of stress, the world starts crumbling beneath them and around them. Like the earth outside of the gates of heaven is starting to like fall apart.
I
And
do want to
go
jump
ahead,
in real fast.
go for it.
So before everything is starting to crumble, like it's like shaking and stuff. Johnny's kind of going crazy. He's starting to yell at Reed, and he says, all you do these days is bust everything all to pieces. Tell him, Sue. Tell him why we can't stand to be around him anymore. And then Sue goes, Jonathan Storm, don't you speak for me. You don't have any clue how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a lot.
Yeah. And then Reed immediately being like, coming from someone, or I don't remember what the exact word is, but he's like coming from someone who only thinks about himself, and he like stretches his fist and makes it huge and punches Johnny in the face, bro. Like, it is the stress that I felt in this scene was more than the stress I felt with the whole Doctor Doom of it all last time. Because it's just them three or four.
Yeah. And then it was Reed who was just kind of like, in fact, you want to know the real reason your brother left the team, Sue? He's afraid I'll pull the trigger on him like I did Ben, and that's insane.
He screams to the sky. Who could live with themselves?
Yes.
And he's got tears in his eyes. Oh my God.
Because
the way this scene was drawn. Yeah. Go for it. Go ahead.
It's tearing him apart, and everybody left. And I get why they left. I understand everyone has to grieve in their own way, but you left the man who shot his best friend and killed him alone. Mm-hmm. Again, there's a whole bunch of other factors, right? He kept secrets. He didn't tell them the plan. He didn't tell them what was going on. There are layers to this. It's not just, black and white. But he needed somebody too, and he had no one. Mm-hmm. He had nobody.
Just Ben's body.
And his brain. And that man, all he likes to do sometimes is beat himself up. Especially if it's about Ben. 50 years of beating himself up after Ben. But yes, then eventually, like, all their rage and stuff ends up, like, shattering where they are.
Yeah, and Ben realizes because of this that, like, if they don't break down this door, they're all gonna die if he doesn't get them through that door. And so he starts ripping the technology apart off that door and pulls the door down and discovers that behind the door it wasn't really a door that Reed made. It's a wall that Ben himself made, because the wall behind the door is Ben's rock skin, stopping himself from getting to heaven. And I was confused by this revelation, because immediately he goes to Reed and tells him that he doesn't want to die. He doesn't want to be buried yet. He's ready to go back to Earth with them. And I was very confused how he got here, and I was hoping you could explain this to me, because I was like, wait, what do you mean?
I think that maybe he might have been ready to go because he thought that Reed was stopping him from going to heaven, right? That's why the door was there. It was essentially Reed, quote unquote, stopping him from going to heaven. However, once he tore all the technology down, he realized it was a mask for himself, keeping himself out of heaven because he really wasn't ready to go yet. That he had other things to do, that his family might have needed him. And I think that might have been kind of what it was. But I don't really have like any other insight to it or anything else like that.
Okay.
I did find it fascinating, though, that after that argument between the family, Reed is sitting in a corner, like with his knees up like a child, kind of like hiding. I forgot to bring that up. And then Ben's like running towards him, trying to like keep him from falling down into this hole because of the rage that everyone's brought to heaven.
Yeah, like he's brought them there, and he's realizing that they're going to lose Ben again. Like, they're about to lose Ben again. And now that the world's crumbling around them, they might all die. And it's because he brought them there. So I'm sure he was like, okay, maybe everyone was right about me. I feel like that's probably what was going through his mind as he's sitting there with his knees up, just kind of giving up.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like you said, they're a mess without their rock, without Ben. And so Ben comes and tells him that. And this is where Ben's brother offers them all a choice, saying that his boss is like, you can stay here. You can bring the kids if y'all want eternal bliss. And they politely decline, essentially, is how the conversation goes. And he's like, that's the correct answer. And opens the door to heaven and says that they can visit if they want before they head back to Earth. This was crazy to me. They go through the gate and they're like flying through this version of heaven that like I never imagined it to be. It's kind of like the cosmos a little bit. There's like it looks like there's like technology on like a planet, like they're in space. There's like this floating rock that has a door on it, and they land on this little rock thing, and they go into the door. I'm going to read word for word what I wrote. And they find a comic book artist who may or may not be Jack Kirby. And I'm going to let Marsh talk about what happens in this scene because I do not have enough knowledge to do so. So I'm going to let you finish out the issue.
So yes, your instincts are correct. That is Jack Kirby, and he is quote unquote God in the Fantastic Four universe. And yeah, they just kind of talk with him, and he talks to them, and it's just interesting. I don't know, the fact that Johnny is in there. He goes, "So where are all the elves?" And then we're already back with Johnny and Ben. That's Santa, but but it was just kind of cool just to see Jack Kirby kind of interacting with his own characters, and Jack kind of saying, "That's what my creations do. They find humanity in God." And then randomly the phone rings, and they're talking about the first appearance of Black Panther showing up in the Fantastic Four. Like, that was kind of cool. And like after he got off the phone, he was like, "Who called?" Jack was like, "My collaborator." Enough said. It was a really cool scene because, like, you kind of see. I'm not good with words. Like, I don't really know how to explain, like, what I'm trying to, like, say, but Johnny kind of goes, "Your collab, but these drawings are yours." And Jack goes, My contribution to the grand tapestry, ideas, notions, passions. We're all a part of the process. Think about your world. It starts with words and pictures, the ordinary and the cosmic. That's what sets the stage. The play is your lives. Your adventures become our explorations. My window into tomorrow. How far out is that world that's coming? What is it? Where is it going? How will it evolve? The mystery intrigues me. And I think that's kind of maybe like a cool way to interpret maybe how Jack was thinking when he was drawing the Fantastic Four. There have been theories that he even wrote a lot of what Stan and Lee did, or Stan and Kirby did together. There have been talks about that. So it's just kind of an interesting thing to see kind of Waid kind of talk through maybe a potential lens for Jack Kirby, who can no longer speak because he had passed away.
Mm-hmm.
Just the fact that he's kind of like, and then Reed even is like, "Forgive me, I find it hard to believe that the wellspring of a reality is a yellow stick." And Jack again is like, "History's greatest inventions were crafted using its simplest tools. You're smart enough to know that. Besides, the beauty of this pencil is this, that they have erasers. And because he's God, he basically took Reed's scar away." So I don't know. It's just a really cool thing, I think, to have to include Jack Kirby in this and kind of make him the quote-unquote God for the Fantastic Four and kind of just be able to fix everything that needs to be fixed in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of, like I said, being able to see potentially maybe through the lens of Jack Kirby in a different writer's perspective.
And then the issue ends, like the final panel is a sketch of the Fantastic Four, like in old age, still happy, smiling, and together. I thought that was, this whole sequence was incredibly beautiful to me. I typically, anytime a comic gets meta and we see things like this, like what is the freaking Invincible did it, where like Mark sees either the Kirkman or the artist at a con, and then like Dan Slott did it in the She-Hulk run in the mid 2000s, where she was like looking through old issues of her own comic. And I was just like, I cringe so bad at that type of meta shit, like in that way. This had my ass crying so hard because like it all does go back to Kirby and Lee. And I just thought this was very like a very beautiful tribute to him. And like Waid and Ringo did this just did it so freaking well. Just so freaking well.
I mean,
also, you are good with words. That's why I wanted you to talk about this, because like I knew that you would like pick out the best bits of dialogue that were included, and it's just like this felt like a very important scene in this entire run. And so yeah.
Well, so you also kind of, your last statement kind of about Kirby and Lee, I mean, not to be that person, but without the Fantastic Four, there is no there is no more Marvel. That was
Correct.
like that was it. That started everything.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's just I don't know. It's just very powerful. And like you said, the scene is beautiful from Waid and when Ringo. So good. And yeah, so I have to say this is just really good.
And so, like, I agree, it was really good. I thought this was a very lovely way to end this arc on a very hopeful, positive note, especially with a little look at the future. Seeing them all old was really sweet. And then, like, we go into issue 512. And it's just silly and fun again, and it's very light. And I'm very excited to talk about this. This one's going to feel very gossipy because it's a very compact little story. So I had fun writing the recap of this one.
I'm excited.
About to dive into it. The issue starts with Johnny walking through New York, and we get like a little montage of him realizing that Spider-Man is now more popular than him. So like we see a little moment where he hears on the radio they're talking shit about the Human Torch. And then we see like a window with a bunch of Spider-Man toys in it and a little sign that says all Fantastic Four merchandise is on clearance. And then like Johnny just keeps getting more and more down. And then he sees a guy wearing a Human Torch shirt. And he's like, well, at least someone's still a fan. And the guy's like, what? This Torch shirt? We all got them. And he points behind him and says the dumpster was full of them. And it just shows a bunch of homeless people wearing Human Torch shirts, which was crazy. And then we see Johnny walking by a newsstand that has a poster that says New York's least eligible bachelor, and it shows years 1999 through 2004, and on every year there's a picture of Spider-Man except for 2004, and it's just a picture of Johnny. So like this is a big deal to Johnny. He's been famous since he was a teenager. He's been like the guy everybody wants to bang, like basically his entire adult life. And so this is a very humbling thing for him. So we cut to Reed's lab where Reed is working on getting a bunch of patents done because they lost all their fucking money. And so Reed's trying to get all of their money back. And Johnny's talking to him, and then Franklin walks up, and he's wearing a Spider-Man hat, and Franklin, out of nowhere, just goes, Uncle Johnny, it's okay. Second place is nothing to be ashamed of. And Johnny storms off, and Franklin walks up to Ben, who's in the shadows, and goes, how was that, Uncle Ben? And hands him back the Spider-Man hat, and Ben gives him, like, a $20 bill or something, like, gives him some money. Very funny. So glad Ben is back. So then we cut to the night sky, and Johnny has left a message in flames in the sky that says, Spidey, meet me at the usual place. So he and Spider-Man meet on the Statue of Liberty and have a conversation where he's like, how do you handle everyone hating you? I would really like some advice on how to get through the day as a complete loser. And so Spider-Man's like, bitch, meet me at this address tomorrow at 10 a.m. And so then after that, we cut to Ben going to visit Alicia. It's the next day. Ben's going to visit Alicia, and he sees all the statues of himself. He's like carrying in this gigantic rock for her to like sculpt. And he sees all the statues of himself, and he gets angry, and he shatters the new rock that he brought in. At first, I thought he was shattering one of his own statues, and I was like, that's a lot. Like, I know she can't see it, but that's a lot. And so Alicia's like, hey, are you okay? And he's like, it just makes me angry because it reminds me of how close I was to heaven and how being back on Earth has only made it more of an obvious thing of like what being alive on Earth is kind of like how close it is to being in hell all the time. And he mentioned that it's not fair that Reed got his old face back when they came back, but Ben is still in his monster skin. That's his words, not mine. And then Ben and Alicia, like, they just have this like really sweet kind of mundane moment where they're like staring out a window, and he like asks her why she wears gloves, and she's like, because my hands are cold. And he says, how did I ever let you go? And that's how that moment ended. And I was like, why was that just so like that, like truly read just like a conversation that like you weren't supposed to hear people with so much history having, just like trying to still communicate. I don't know. I was just like, it just like gave me like a pang in my chest. And I was like, I really hope we get to see some type of reconciliation between them before this run ends. We only have 7 issues left, so I don't really know what I'm going to get, but I hope there's something. Anyway, the next morning, so yeah, it's still that morning, whatever. Peter and Johnny have met up, and the address that he gave him was to a water park, Splash Valley Water Park, where it's the opening weekend. Johnny is fully dressed, wearing like jeans and a sweater, and Spider-Man is in his Spidey suit, but he's wearing one of Ben's big trench coats and hats to hide his identity because he is wearing the Spidey suit. And I guess at this point, Johnny doesn't know that he's Peter Parker, I'm assuming. So he's in the Spidey suit.
You know, actually, no, yeah, you'd be right, because I don't think he came out to everyone until Civil War. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, period. Good to know. So, like, just a couple of years after this run then, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So Peter immediately shouts to the crowd that the Human Torch is there, and he's like, "Step right up to get pictures and autographs," knowing that everyone hates the Human Torch. And so everyone immediately is like, "What the fuck?" and starts yelling at Johnny about the war that Reed caused. And there's a guy across the way that like takes off his bucket hat, and the guy is like, "Spider-Man's here," and he looks like scared. And I was like, who the fuck is that? Why does this man matter? So Spider-Man is just like watching all of this, kind of giggling while everyone's yelling at Johnny, because this is a part of the lesson of being an absolute fucking loser. And all of a sudden, a giant water fist comes up and punches Spider-Man. Turns out the guy in the bucket hat was actually Hydro Man, who is just trying to work a normal job at the water park. But he sees Spider-Man and he's like, "This motherfucker is stalking me and is trying to ruin my life." And Spider-Man's like, "No, this is just a coincidence, I promise." So all of the drama that happens in this little mini arc is just because of like a miscommunication and assumption, and it's so fucking funny to me. So yeah, Hydro Man turns into like this giant wave and starts attacking, and it's causing a big deal in the water park. And he's like, "You'll never take me alive." Johnny flames on, and he's like, "Don't be worried, everyone. The Human Torch is here." And it's like they're at a water park. First of all, it's hot out already, so the Human Torch is on fire. Like the ice cream next to him starts melting. He's causing problems just by being on fire. He gets extinguished pretty quickly because of Hydro Man's water, and Hydro Man does this like big wave and throws him in the pool as he's like trying to take his sweater off, because he's like, "This freaking wet sweater's messing up my like flammability," I guess is what was happening. And so when the big wave comes, it knocks Johnny into a kiddie pool, and he suddenly is fully naked and cannot get out to help Spider-Man. And this is where the story ends, with Johnny screaming to this, not the story, this issue. The story in this issue ends with Johnny screaming at the side that he has no pants on, and he's surrounded by little kids in the pool.
Which is crazy, by the way.
Absolutely fucking insane.
I read that, and I was like, only in the 2000s could you get away with it.
Literally. And so that's where that story ends. But at the end of this issue, there's like a little mini story that I loved so much. It's basically, it starts with Sue is on the phone talking to Alicia about how there's this distance with her and Reed, and she's trying to get his attention. But she says she has this idea while looking at a picture of Namor. So then we go into this very hilarious montage of the week of Sue just trying to get Reed's attention while he's working. And he just keeps blowing her off. The first time she's like, "Well, I've been looking for an excuse to call Namor anyway." And so he immediately goes and does what she wants him to do. The next day, we see Franklin trying to talk to Reed about how much fun he had swimming, and Reed's kind of ignoring him. And then Reed looks at him and sees that Franklin is wearing Namor's like scaly underpants swimsuit. And he's like, "Where did you get those?" And he's like, "Mom." And then the next day, we see Rude coming into to whatever room it is to talk to Sue, asking her help for something, and he sees that she's like putting flowers around this beautiful statue of Namor that Alicia made for her. And it just continues. Like, then we see Sue back on the phone with Alicia, and she tells her that she's gonna go as far as she needs to get the message across. And she hears Reed walking down the hallway, so she's like, I'm gonna let you go. So she calls for him and asks if he has a minute, and he says it's a bad time. And so she starts complaining to herself, and she's like, "Maybe if you had bigger Omni globes, Sue." That was crazy. That shit was crazy.
Again, only the early 2000s could you say stuff like that.
Truly. And so upon hearing that, Reed stretches his face into the room beside her, and he goes, "Did you need me?" And she looks at him, and he has like changed his face to look like Namor's, and they both like dissolve into laughter. And they start like, they're just being all flirty, and they start talking about like how Sue could have become like Namor's queen if she wanted, and like he could have taught the kids to swim and all of this stuff. And she's like, "Hey, don't pick on my old boyfriends. I seem to recall you have your own skeletons." and she asked him, she's like, what about that one girl, Alyssa or whatever her name was, that you ran around college with? When was the last time you heard from her? And Reed's face changes immediately. And he's like, it's funny you should ask, because Alyssa is in his lab right now. And it says to be continued.
See, that's so
And I was
crazy.
gagged. I went, huh? Why is she there? That's crazy. So then we go into issue 513, and we're catching back up with Johnny, who's still naked in the kiddie pool. Like, all the kids are screaming and they run away, and Johnny stands up and is covering his frontal area with a like floaty, but they still drew his little butt. I was like, oh my god, like, why didn't y'all just keep him in the water? And Spider-Man comes over and is like, I'll fix you up. And he makes Johnny like a Speedo made out of his webbing and says it's from his spring collection. Johnny is then immediately attacked by the adults that are there. They're all screaming at him about everything that the Fantastic Four has done, and like insinuating that he's like being a pervert at the water park. And Johnny's like, yeah, you saved the city 1,000 times and all you get is grief. Fine. Now pardon me while I go beat the bad guys. And he flames on and he starts flying around naked, because when he flamed on, all the web went away. And so then
crazy.
He's just flying around the water park naked now with Spider-Man. And they go into this big fight scene with Hydro Man for like pages and pages, where Hydro Man keeps like disappearing and hiding. The whole time, everyone is just mad, screaming at Johnny. Even though he's actively fighting this big water monster, everyone's just like, you're a fucking loser. Like, they're just being mean. Like, everyone. And Spider-Man keeps saving people, so they're like, we love you, Spider-Man. We hate you, Human Torch. We like the Submariner better anyways. Like, that's literally a line in the book that made me scream cackle. Because like, why are y'all bringing that up? The battle continues, and then Johnny and Spider-Man have the idea to trap Hydro Man in Ben's gigantic jacket, because the fabrics are extra tough. So they trap him, and they like form the jacket into this ball, and Johnny like burns it to make it stick together.
He cauterizes it.
Period. I didn't really know you could do that to fabric.
Well, so no, because the jacket's made out of Reed's unstable molecules, which is why it can stretch.
Period.
So like it stretches, and so that's why they're like, oh, we could trap Hydro Man in here because it's gonna stretch and like pick up all of his water, and then Johnny cauterizes it to keep him from getting out of it.
Okay, well, that was very smart of them. I was just like, okay, period. So they do that. They trap him, and everything calms down, and everyone's like, we love you, Spider-Man. We hate Johnny. And then Peter sees that the mascot of the water park, which is like a squid.
Yes,
the
Squiddy.
guy in the squid costume, Squiddy, is hanging from a ledge that Spider-Man put him on, but he sees this as an opportunity to let Johnny save the day, so he tells everyone that he doesn't have any webs left. So Johnny jumps into action and goes and saves the guy, and then everyone is all about Johnny again, because they saw him save someone, and they're not mad at him anymore, but they very quickly turn on Spider-Man, and they're like, you're lazy. You just stood there while he saved him. And the status quo has returned. Everyone loves Johnny again, and everyone hates Spider-Man. During all of this, we briefly see like a shadowy man, like in the dark, talking to the Hydro Man jacket ball, and he gets Hydro Man jacket ball out of there. Like, they leave. So yeah, Johnny has saved the day. Everyone loves him. Johnny then flies him and Spider-Man out, because Spider-Man did lie to everyone as they didn't have any webs. So Johnny has to fly him out. And he thanks Spider-Man for helping him not look like a fool. And he tells him that he knows how important that is. And Spider-Man's like, no, say no more. No need to thank me. And as they fly away, we see that Spider-Man has webbed Johnny's underwear up to the flagpole, and they're flapping in the wind. And that is the end of the Spider-Sense arc, which was just a joy. An absolute joy. This was my first time seeing them interact, other than that like one very famous page where Spider-Man comes home and Johnny is naked in his bed, and he's like, what the fuck are you doing here? And Johnny's like, you told me I could come here whenever I wanted. He's like, why are you naked? That's the only thing I've ever seen of them two. I've never seen any other interaction.
Funny.
So I just thought it was a lot of fun, and it was like a really good palate cleanser after how heavy the last like 20 issues have been.
The whole arc so far, you mean?
But at the end of this issue, we did get part 2 of the Sue and Reed and Alyssa, or Lissa, whatever this girl's name is, story. So it starts and we catch up with Reed's ex-girlfriend. She and Sue are about to go through like a time machine because apparently that's why she's there. She's wanting to go back in time to like relive something that she did so she can like analyze it again. So it's like a personal mission and Reed's helping her out. So they send Sue back with her so that Sue can keep them invisible so they don't mess with anything and disrupt the time stream. And they get to this like portal thing and they're watching like past Alyssa come through it, and behind her comes a young Reed, and they start making out. And he asks her to marry him. And then suddenly, like, these giant tentacles come through this portal. And Sue is like, oh my God, I have to stop it. And this lady is like, no, bitch, you cannot mess up the timeline. And she's like, do you really think my ass would be here if I wasn't supposed to, if I wasn't supposed to save my husband right now? And so she does. And Alyssa's like, oh my God, that's why we were saved, because you did that in the future. And so yeah, they go back to the lab, and Reed's like, how did it go? And she was like, it refreshed my memory. I just needed to compare it to a monster that I fought a week ago. A connection between them would have been significant, but they're totally different. So basically, they went back for no reason. It's insinuated they went back for no reason other than Alyssa just wanted to be a bitch and make Sue watch her and Reed make out and get engaged. I was like, what?
She saved them from dying to that monster, right? So yes, it was petty, right? But like, without Sue being there, they would have died.
That's the truth. It was written in the stars that Alyssa had to be a bitch. And so she did. So this little story ends with them saying their goodbyes. And Sue is like, I'm sure that we'll see you again sooner rather than later. And Alyssa's like, I'd count on it. And that's the end of the issue. And I was like, who is this bitch? Like, like, I'm assuming she's going to come back at some point. But I was like, girl, I don't know you. And you're so aggressive.
So she has a lot of cameos. But so she first, I believe, shows up. And there's like these series that they did called like Before the Fantastic Four. And there's one for each of them for like Ben, Sue, Johnny, and Reed. And there's a Before the Fantastic Four with Reed Richards. And it's basically like them going on adventures. Like Reed and Alyssa and some other character that I've forgotten their name of are all going like on these like Tomb Raider adventures for some reason, because why not? And that's where she kind of shows up.
Oh yeah, because Sue was like, your Lara Croft wannabe girlfriend, ex-girlfriend. That shit was so funny. Okay, so now we're going to get into issue 514, which is the beginning of the final arc of the week. This issue starts with us meeting Wizard, who I believe is an old Fantastic Four villain. I feel like
he is.
Was he a magician early on in the very first run?
Yes.
Okay, I wrote Marsh can expand upon this if she wants to give a little bit of history of who Wizard is, because girl, this man is a lot.
He's a gross dude. He, like, quite literally is, like, a gross dude. And when we get into Hickman's run, you'll see him even more as a gross dude. But, I mean...
That's terrible news. I just want to say that is terrible news. Because I hated this man so much in this arc.
You're not gonna like him. He's just a gross dude who wants to be like Reed in Doom, but, like, takes it to, like, a grosser, further extreme, essentially.
Okay, period. Okay, so yeah, this issue starts with us being reintroduced to this nasty-ass man named Wizard. Turns out, he's the one from the Shadows last issue that saved Hydro Man. He's building a team of 4 to take down the Fantastic Four, which apparently he has done multiple times. He's just never succeeded before. The team this time is himself, Hydro Man, a guy called the Trapster that apparently he has history with. I think they're like old friends and he's probably been on the teams before, I'm assuming. But he can like trap people in like this gross ass white looking stuff that like seals to them. That's what I got from how he used his powers in this arc. That could be wrong. But
he's Paste Pot Pete. That's like his original first name.
Say that one more time.
Paste Pot Pete.
Okay. So I thought you said Piss Pot Pete, and I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean Piss Pot?
So when he showed up in the Fantastic Four, they were part of the Frightful Four, which is the Wizard, Medusa, Paste Pot Pete, and Sandman, I think, if I remember right. And then Paste Pot Pete eventually changes his name to Trapster.
Okay. period. So it's Wizard, Hydro Man, Trapster, and then this lady named Salamandra, who shows up with like blue fire and it's like, I am the daughter of the dragon. And I think that I was like, okay, this is just sexy lady. Cool. That's all I got from her in this first introduction. And she says things like, I am the daughter of the dragon. And she talks about herself in third person. She says like, this one is hungry for a Big Mac. Like that's how she talks. And I was like, love you already, Salamandra. After some conversation that's not really important overall, it is revealed that Salamandra and Wizard have a 19-year-old daughter who has been emailing with Johnny, and they plan to meet up in real life. So they are going to use her to lead them to the Fantastic Four and get the Frightful Four inside the building. The Trapster is like, what do we need to know about your daughter? We'd hate for her to get trapped in the crossfire, burned by the torch. It would suck to see a young thing die like that. And the Wizard is like, yeah, it would be a pity. And he's like smiling like a creepy fuck because he clearly hates his daughter. Like we get like, he's so disgusting, so gross. And like, this is how they reveal he hates his daughter and doesn't care if she dies. In fact, he insinuates to Trapster that he wants him to kill her. Like, without saying those words. He's like, it would be a shame. And was like smiling at him. That's what I got from this. So.
Yeah.
We then cut to the Fantastic Four. They're all out shopping, just doing New York stuff. And everyone's treating them differently because of Latveria still. Like, a hot dog guy that's been selling to Ben for 5 years will not sell to Ben. And Ben gets angry and like picks up a bus because like someone on the bus threw, was it an ice cream at him or something? Or a milkshake,
like a
coffee.
Shake.
Yeah. Like everyone's treating them badly, even though everyone loved Johnny at the water park. Things are still going bad for everyone else. Johnny tells them, hey, you guys, I'm late for a date. And he heads off to meet the girl. And they all like joke around about him going. And Reed's like, well, luckily I hacked his email and I know where they're going. And I was like, okay, fun Reed. I love to see Reed being fun and not, crying or being angry or being crazy. This is nice to see him in a different state right now because it's been a minute. So we see Johnny get to the date and he meets her, the girl, the daughter of Wizard, and we learn that her name is Cole. While Wizard and his gang of enemies watch via some camera somewhere outside, there is a camera that is very close to Johnny and Cole's face. I was like, I love when they do this shit in comics and in movies and in TV. Where is the camera? How are y'all seeing this? They're villains. He's magic. He's a magician. Hydro Man says that he likes their daughter and suggests that she should be on the team. And Wizard is like, no, this team only needs 4 members, not 5. Besides, I've tested the girl and she has absolutely no powers. So this is some backstory about the daughter that we needed. But back to the date. Because Reed hacked Johnny's email, the rest of the Fantastic Four roll up on the date, and they start picking on Johnny, and Cole very quickly gets flustered. We don't know why. She's like, it's okay, Johnny. Like, I wanted this. I didn't want it to be like this. And she like starts to get flustered and panicked. And suddenly the building behind them starts to explode and rubble flies everywhere like it has no gravity. Sue is able to contain it and protect everyone with a force field. And Cole runs off and shouts, leave me alone, as Johnny follows her. A lot happens really fast here. And I did not pick up on what was happening. I also think I missed at the beginning of it that Wizard's powers were like gravity, like stuff, but it's like he can't control gravity, but he's like created something that controls gravity.
Yes.
Okay. So Johnny chases her and catches up with her, and they end up having this conversation about like family trauma. Cole like talks about how she only sees her mom like 2 weeks out of a year because she's always out jet setting around the world with men. And she tries to buy her off with like jewelry when she's not around. She makes a comment about how like she wouldn't care if she died. And then that's when Johnny's like, you would care. My mom died when I was young and my dad's dead, but he was in prison while he was alive. Like they just kind of trauma bond like a little bit. They're relating. And this is where Cole starts to realize that she actually does like Johnny. And it starts to feel a bit like romantical. So he takes her back to the tower and starts to show her around. She asks pretty quickly where the bathroom is, and he tells her it's down the hallway. And while she's walking down the hall, the rest of the Fantastic Four show up, and Rita's like, where is she? Because he's realized that the explosion of that building was no accident, but it was linked to Wizard's gravitational powers. But it's too late because Cole has already let in the Frightful Four. And that is the end of issue 514. This is, I guess this is truly like my first time seeing Johnny in an actual like romantic situation. Like I've seen him flirt with people, but I've never seen like in my reading thus far, I haven't seen him be in any type of relationship. So the way this made me feel, I was like, oh, I want to actually read Johnny in a relationship. So this is me pausing the podcast to ask for a recommendation for me and the viewers of like, what's a good romance for Johnny Storm? Because I would love to read Johnny in this way because I loved him in this arc.
So, like, if you're talking like you want to go like way back, like Kirby and Lee stuff, there's
like your personal favorite Johnny romance.
They don't ever end well, so it's hard for me to give you my favorite.
Period.
You know what though? This is gonna sound so weird, and I hated it when I first started reading it, but I kind of have grown to kind of like it. The relationship between him and Alicia Masters.
What? I did not know I didn't know this was happening.
Yeah,
What?
so there's a time during Burns' run, during the Secret Wars event, where they all get transported, except for Sue, to the Secret Wars, like, Beyonder battlefield or whatever. Mm-hmm. And Reed and Johnny come back, and Ben stays, because Ben's become human, and that's where they do the spin-off series called The Thing. So, like, Ben's on his own, like, kind of, like, doing his own stuff by himself. And then you have Reed, Sue, and Johnny all back on Earth. Well, during that time while Ben's gone, they bring in She-Hulk. And I think it's, like, right before Ben leaves or he comes back. I don't quite remember, but, like, he ends up breaking it off with Alicia. And so, like, Alicia's, like, alone or whatever, and then like randomly Johnny and Alicia kind of start dating, and at first I was like, dude, this is fucking weird. Like, I don't know, it's fucking weird. But I don't know, just the way that he treats Alicia and like the way that they can like the way that they have conversations is really beautiful. And so like I really liked that aspect of it, like the way that they can talk about their feelings and their thoughts and like be emotionally in like a relationship, but then also have like a physical relationship as well. It was just really interesting to see. But like I said, again, the first time when I was reading it, I was like, so Burn, we've crossed the line. This is weird. But I did kind of like that. Spoiler. They do end up getting married, Johnny and Alicia.
Oh my god. Okay.
But then it's retconned in the early 90s. And I will leave it at that.
Okay. That's wild information to have. I will say though that like the things that you like said you liked about it was like how they interacted. Like that's what I really loved about this was like the conversations between Johnny and Cole. And I was like, see, again, like it adds to that, like there's an emotional maturity there that like when he like drops the comedian like front, like there's so much depth, and I'm like, I want to see more of that. And like love is clearly his language, like when he is doing that. So I yeah. Well, thank you for that recommendation. I was not expecting that at all. But I will do more research. Issue 515 begins with Wizard live streaming the battle to the world, and it's a long battle. Okay, it's like most of this issue. The Fantastic Four hold their own for a while, but this team counteracts them really, really well, and they're kind of getting their asses beat a little bit. In the midst of it all, the Trapster is about to kill Wizard's daughter, as he was told to do so by Wizard. And Wizard is like, cut the cameras, and stops him and traps him in a time loop for the rest of his life as punishment, even though he told him to do it. But this was back before he realized that his daughter had powers. He turns, you remember when he was like, I tested the child. She didn't have no powers. Yeah. Well, now he knows he didn't blow up that building. She did. So he's like, how dare you? And yeah, he puts Trapster in like a time loop. He turns the camera back on, and they basically defeat the Fantastic Four. Like they don't like knock them out, but they've got them cornered. And he's like, look at this world. Your heroes are actually useless and can't protect you like you always believed. And then he and his team just teleport away. Like they just leave. Back to his weird lab where he's now running tests on Cole. He's being uncharacteristically kind to her, and that kind of pisses off her mom. Her mom is like, you know what? I'm going to tell you the truth about what your dad did to both of us. The Wizard then starts this speech about how they both got what they wanted out of the marriage, and he was clearly not looking for a lover. And the mom is like, You made that excruciatingly clear when you left me with child in the coldest way possible. And Cole's like, did he violate you? And she goes, no, he had his machines do it. Cole was created out of artificial insemination with some machines. Fucking weird, fucking wild. Just, I was like, okay, if I couldn't have hated this man more, like, and listen, I know that Salamandra is a villain, but still, like, the way he talks to her in this, and like, I just cannot imagine what that marriage was like. And then the wizard is like, well, you wanted to get an abortion in the entire process, and if I hadn't kept you restrained and sedated, you would have never had Cole, and yet you still took her from me after she was born. And the mom is like, you never once tried to stop me from leaving or even contacted us ever again until after all these years, and now I know why. Because you had the child tested in the days before her birth and found out that she was normal, so you didn't want her until you saw that building fall today. Then you knew, and you would do anything to get her back. And Cole is like, is that true? And the wizard is like, yeah, it is true.
So gross.
You have
He's
amazing
so gross.
abilities. Yep. He tried to give her powers when they were growing her, but they didn't work until later in life, so he didn't want anything to do with her until he found out. And Cole crashes out, understandably, and leaves to go find Johnny. Meanwhile, the Fantastic Four are back at the lab talking about how ridiculous this whole thing is because Wizard did all of this just because he wanted the media to make him more famous than them. And they then go on a tangent about how that's what his whole thing has been about the entire time. His end game is just to be famous and loved like they are. And Johnny's like, what if Cole's in real trouble though? And they're like, well, she's his daughter. How do we trust her? And Johnny's like, I just feel like maybe she's not lying. So he flies off to find her, but she's already there. She's made it back, and they're like hanging out on the side of the building on what looked to be like a gargoyle type situation thing.
It's the Chrysler building because Johnny had made a comment about going to the Chrysler building. And I think that's where they kind of decided to like meet unofficially.
So I have a question about this, and this is just me being nosy. How did she get on this little perch on the side of the building? Can she fly, or did Ringo just casually put her there?
She, sometimes my dad used to say, "Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story."
And period, I'm not going to. You know what? They're just casually on the side of the Chrysler building, okay? And so they start talking, and she tells him that she did meet him under false circumstances, but not the ones he thinks. It was only because she wanted to get closer to Reed Richards because she wants him to cure her because her powers hurt her really badly when she uses them, and also people around her tend to get hurt. She didn't expect to actually fall for Johnny, but she's not angry that she did. The rest of the gang then show up on a force field that's floating. Sue had them invisible and they were listening in. And so now they're like, we believe you. And we should be. Reed's like, I should be able to cure you, but I need to access Wizard's computer data on you to see what he did to give you the powers in the first place. So they're going to pull a reverse Uno and sneak into Wizard's lair, which is this big, stupid ass tunnel of a lair that doesn't have floors. It just has shit floating around because he's extra as fuck. And like there's a whole lot of gravity shit that I'm not even going to try to explain, but know that they're like sideways but not. I don't even, just Google it. Google Wizard's Lair in Mark Waid's run, because I was just like, this is so extra, but it's perfectly him. I will say that. So we go into the final issue, 516. Back at the lair, an alarm goes off, alerting them that there's a security breach. Salamandra is in a hot tub wearing a bikini top and nothing else. Just letting y'all know, that's what they were doing in the early 2000s.
I didn't even realize that, I didn't even like clock or register in my brain. Also, can we talk about how Hydro Man was the water in her bathtub?
Oh my god, I didn't know that. I didn't realize that. That's so wild. The only reason why I noticed was because when she stood up, like she wasn't wearing any underwear, and I was like, why is she wearing a bra? And then I looked at it and I was like, I bet Marvel made them draw like a bikini top on her. I bet it was too risque because they draw her in a way that is like filthy. That's I was like, she is like, like in 2003, 2004, like when the movie The Girl Next Door came out, it was a very like sex sells kind of time in media and movies. Like we were at the end of like the American Pie trilogy and all of these like raunchy things. I was just like, this character is Marvel's version of those raunchy things. So anyway,
Yeah.
she gets out of the hot tub. They look at the cameras and see that Cole is climbing up the tunnels, and they realize that she's talking to someone as she's climbing up, and they're like, oh, she's bringing the Fantastic Four in, and they're just invisible. So they meet her at the little entrance that she's about to come out of, and after she gets out, they fire at the hole behind her, thinking that they've killed the Fantastic Four, but the Fantastic Four are really fucking smart. So they've teleported in behind all of them. Thus begins a really big battle that a lot happens, and I'm only going to tell you the important things because there's a lot of frames of things happening. So here we go. The mom, Salamandra, turns into a dragon, and I had been waiting the whole time for the dragon, and then she turns out to be the ugliest dragon I've ever seen. I was so upset. I went, are you freaking kidding me? She looks like I made a dragon out of Play-Doh. She's like rounded, looking like a pink toothless.
She almost
Anyway,
looks like a robot dragon.
it's so bad. It's so bad. 1 second. I just got like 18 text messages and I gotta see what is going on.
She's a smooth dragon. Okay, that's fine. Actually, I'm gonna retcon what I said about my favorite relationship then.
Okay.
I think my favorite relationship is actually his with his with Crystal, and that's in the Lee and Kirby era. Crystal is from the Inhumans, and Johnny was really young and like starting to kind of grow up, and like they saw each other and like they had feelings for each other, and like they were together for like a really long time, and there was talk about marriage and all of these things, and obviously it didn't work out, but just the way that they're able to communicate and the way that like Johnny reacts when something bad happens to Crystal is very heartfelt and very like emotional and raw. And you see, obviously, since I said it doesn't work out, you see Johnny attend her wedding to Quicksilver, and that like emotionally wrecks him as well. So like anytime Crystal is generally brought up, it's brought with some sort of emotion because I think that was his first love, and I think there's something beautiful about it. So I would recommend checking out that one over the Alicia one. Yes.
Okay. Good to know. And now they're in a good place enough that she's like babysitting Franklin and Val, and that's really cute.
Exactly.
Anyway, the biggest, ugliest dragon I've ever seen is fighting Sue. Where am I at? Except she's not big. She's actually a little tiny dragon.
She's a tiny dragon.
She's just a fucking human-sized dragon. Listen, I love a dragon, and I was just really disappointed. I'm sorry. But that's how I'm feeling. Johnny gets hit into a hole by this ugly dragon, and Cole goes after him through the hole to make sure he's okay, and they start making out. Literally, that's exactly what happens, y'all. Reed and Ben are fighting Hydro Man and Wizard. The Hydro Man sees Cole and Johnny come back, and then he attacks them. Cole uses her powers to attack Hydro Man, but it knocks her out. And then Hydro Man was a character. I'm going to say this before I say what happens next. When Hydro Man was introduced at the water park, I thoroughly enjoyed him because he was. I thought it was hilarious that he was like, I'm just trying to like be a good person and have a job. And I thought because of my water powers that I could work at this water park and everything would be good. And then Spider-Man showed up, and I was like, this is actually hilarious. I like his vibe. So cut to now. Frightful Four, he has knocked out Cole, and he says, I'm going to show you what a real man can do, unlike your boyfriend. And, like, to me, that read as an insinuation of rape. I was like, Johnny's like, you sure have a weird way of, like, having fun or something like that. I don't know what it was exactly, he said. But Johnny attacks him, and the battle continues. And I was like, well, I hope Hydro Man dies now. Did I read that wrong? Because that was a very sinister thing to say to a girl that was passed out in front of you.
Yeah, no. Well, no, because I kind of read it the same way, but he also said, and I'm not, like, defending anyone, but he said, like, you said the top part, but then he said, think any of you can push me around? I'll show you what a real man can do. Actually, no. Because then he says, yeah, we're going to have some big fun now, and that's just really gross. That's really gross, actually. Yeah.
Horrific. So hopefully someone out there retcons him in some way.
That's not the first time he said it, though. He said it like to Sue in like kind of like the same manner, either in this issue or under like a previous one.
Ew.
He's just really gross. Okay.
Yeah. So again, Cole is knocked out. Johnny attacks Hydro Man. The battle continues. Everyone kind of starts taking the bad guys down one by one with these like gravity disc things that were probably explained, but not in a way that I retained. So just know that there's like these gravity disc things that they're using.
They were
So
not
can you?
explained. Just letting you know.
Okay, period. So like they throw one at Ugly Dragon and she's like struggles for a little bit because of that. Johnny screams for Reed and they see that Cole is near death. Her body has been drained like a fucking Capri Sun. It is gross. And I was like, so this is what happens when she uses her powers. She just becomes that girl who smoked weed that one time on the old MTV commercial that's laying on the couch. Do you remember that? Because that's what this was giving.
The one I remember though is this is your brain on drugs, and it's like the 2 eggs frying in the pan.
Yeah.
Do you know, that's the one that I think of. I don't know the one that
Yeah.
you're referring to.
I'll send you a picture of her later.
Okay.
Like she's just a skin laying on the couch. Anyway, so Reed says that he needs Wizard's data now because she's gonna die. So he leaves to go try to find it. Wizard then attacks Johnny and takes Cole to a different room and heals her while he monologues to her and proves to her that he only cares about her for her powers. She's like, I didn't think you cared. And he was like, we gotta do more so I can study you some more. And
It's like,
it
bitch, I
pisses
don't
her
care.
off. Yeah, literally. Reed comes in, but then Wizard throws the gravity discs at him, and it starts stretching Reed's body. You know, Reed can stretch if y'all didn't know that. So he starts like spreading him out like a fitted sheet on a bed, and it's just like this thing where Reed's like floating like a napkin. And then Cole
like
gets
4
up.
Different linens. I'm sorry.
Listen, it's summer. I love linen. Where am I at?
Sorry.
Yeah. So Cole now gets up and she uses one of Trapster's traps to trap her dad. Lord, that was hard to say. She uses one of Trapster's traps to trap her dad and starts to suffocate him. She then says, it's time for the fat lady to sing, and absorbs all the energy that she can, and then uses her natural gravity powers to pull the lair out of the underground, because it's in the subway, just reminding you guys it's in the New York subway, and bust through the ground, and they're floating in the sky. But because her body changes with her powers, she is now huge. Like, gigantic, huge, round woman, which was a crazy choice to make. The way they drew her, I was like, yes, I remember Shallow Hal in 2003. I do remember that. Actually, 2001, I think.
Honestly,
is when it came out.
I've been watching a lot of my 600-pound life, and I was like, oh, okay, my realities are colliding right now. Okay.
That show is so good, by the way.
It really is.
Anyway, she is now huge, and she grabs her dad and is like, even if you're awful, you're still my dad, and I don't want you to die. And he's like, finally, we can do it. Like, he starts talking and doing evil shit. And she's like, but I can't allow this to continue either. And she shoots them and the lair into the ocean in a big explosive splash. Not very much later after, I think is what it says on the page. It says something like that. The Fantastic Four are searching the wreckage for any sign of her or anyone else, and they can't find anything. Reed tells Johnny that it's basically impossible to find her because of, like, science. He says some like science thing that I was like, you're so pretty. Anytime he starts explaining things, I'm like, you're just so hot, Reed. Like, you're beautiful. Because I don't understand most of the things this man says. Johnny is like, Cole's not a bad person and she doesn't deserve this. And Ben goes, you can't pick your family, kiddo. But like the saying goes, they got to take you in when no one else will. And from the sound of it, Cole got taken hook, line, and sinker. And that is the end of this arc and the end of what we read for the week. And let me tell you, it was a grab bag full of a lot of different feelings and emotions. This, like, we get a little bit more of the fallout, some more sadness, we get relief, we get joy, we get comedy, we get more weird family stuff, and we get to be uncomfortable with, like, Creepy Man and Hydro Man and Salamandra's ugly ass dragon form. I love the variety in this arc of all the different things that we've gotten to feel over the past 3 weeks.
It's fair.
This was just, I had a lot of fun reading these issues because I was just like, it was like a roller coaster ride. I did not know where we were going at any moment and had so much fun with it. And I only cried once.
Well, that's good.
It was Jack Kirby.
That's fair. That's fair. You didn't cry during like the scene where Reed was trying to bring Ben back?
No, I was just relieved because I knew. I was like, you know what? I'm just celebrating because I know that he's coming back.
That's
like
fair.
I know you ain't gonna walk through that door, and they did walk through the door, but not in the way that I thought. They were trying to make us think they were going to. But yeah, like it was just again, another really good week of reading. And it's the only thing I read this week. So, like, I got to, like, my brain had enough space for just all of it, and it didn't blend with any X-Men stuff for the first time in a while. So, yeah, I just had a fun time. What was it like for you rereading it all?
So I realized that I don't care for the Frightful Four arc as much as I
Mm-hmm.
remember. I don't know. The quality seemed a little off for me. I also didn't like the art. The art was very jarring for me. But other than that, I really enjoyed everything else, like the comedy from Johnny and Spider-Man, the grief and the emotional angst that we got in the other 3 issues before that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I just didn't really care for the last arc of this week. Wasn't for me.
I will say that there was a stark difference in quality between those three. I think that I was just more grateful that it wasn't heavy. I
Mm,
liked to see Johnny in that capacity in a romantic thing, but I do think that the story was not very good. Like when it comes to Wizard. And I honestly was just kind of putting that on my own like immediate distaste for him
mm.
because I don't remember what issue of the original Fantastic Four run, but it's like he's there within like the first like 6 issues. Like, is he like their second villain or their third? Like he's revealed pretty quickly and he is very annoying even then.
I have to look it up. I don't remember what or when or because he wasn't credited as Wizard. He showed up.
He was like a magician kind of
Yeah.
guy.
No, it says 36 was his first appearance.
What? Well, then who am I thinking of?
I'm not sure.
See, I'm gonna have to get back to you on that
But that's
because
not even his first appearance. Where did he appear first then? I'm about to do some research. Give me a sec. Actually, I can just Google this. What am I doing? I'm over here like looking through Comic Geeks. Wizards first appear.
I will say though that like even though it all is what it is, like with that last one not being great, the last arc not being great, it's not actually going to even change my score. I'm keeping it at 9.7 this week because I do feel like Ben coming back arc and then the Spidey arc would have brought it up,
Mm-hmm.
but the Wizard one would have just brought it back down, but just 0.2, just because of how much I enjoyed the Johnny of it all in these issues.
I'm not gonna lie. I don't remember what I gave it last week.
9.5.
Really, I did do it lower than you. That's right. I think I'm gonna stay
Mm-hmm.
there. I think I'm gonna stay there just because again, I do know where I know where we're gonna end, and so I'm okay with that. But yes, I really, really did not like the Frightful Four arc, so I'm gonna keep it where I have it, just because, like you said, it would go up and then come back down. Really disliked that Frightful Four arc. It was not.
That's valid.
It was not good.
Okay, I'm looking at Marvel Unlimited right now
Mm-hmm.
at the issues of the original run that I've read, and I'm
Yes.
so freaking confused
Okay. Why?
because like I have a very vivid memory of reading a story about this man,
I
and I'm
mean,
not seeing it.
did you read Strange Tales number 102? I don't know. That's his first appearance.
No, because it was the Fantastic Four. Maybe I'm just having intense deja vu, like in a crazy way. What's issue 3? Who's in issue 3? The Miracle Man. That's who I'm thinking of. The Menace of the Miracle Man.
Oh, yeah, no, that's not him.
Because he wants to be famous too, and that's the same thing that Wizard, like his whole thing too. So I think that's why I thought they
Mm,
were the same person. Okay, well I'm glad that I have figured
gotcha.
this out because even if it's not the same person, they both wanted to be famous. Like that little girl from Vine who's like, "I want to be famous." Do you remember that Vine?
So,
Sorry.
I didn't do Vine. So, yeah.
Okay,
I know. I know.
it's okay. It's okay.
But I do remember Periscope from Twitter. Anyway,
Whoa, we're just going. We have talked about so many forms of internet media from the past. We've talked about chain emails. We've talked about cinnamon rolls from Tumblr, Periscope, Vine. Bitch, we're in our 30s. Damn. That's wild. Sorry. Sorry
no,
guys. Sorry humans
you're
of the
fine.
world.
But to be fair though, you asked if he was a magician or whatever, and yes, technically, in his first appearance, he was a magician. So you weren't wrong. You were just thinking of the wrong person.
Yeah. Just another man who wanted to be famous. Wizard and Miracle Man. Crazy. Well, that wraps it up on Fantastic Four for the week. I do not have any pop culture to reference because I was just working and going to do the play every night. So Little Women the Musical is a beautiful score. If you haven't listened to it and you like musical theater, that's my pop culture for the week. Give it a listen. What about you, Marsh? Do you have any pop culture you'd like to recommend?
Sorry, I was laughing at your pitch just because it was funny. Chris and I are continuing our watch of the One Piece live action,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really, really good. And that's all I have to say about it. I don't have anything else to go in depth on. I also read Neighborhood Watch #1 by Boom Studios this week, which was actually way better than I thought it was going to be. It's about two one's like an HOA subdivision, and the other one's like a farming community, and they have like this like underground walking path that like links them together, and there's a murder that happens in like the walking path underneath, but nobody knows that the path exists until they find the body there. So it just seems really like it sounds kind of interesting. The person that was murdered was living in both places. So I'm interested to see where #2 goes.
Okay, so it was the #1 that just came out, right?
Correct. Yeah. Neighborhood Watch #1 just came out. I think it came out this week or last week. One of those weeks.
Super easy for me to catch up on.
But it was
Super
really, really good.
easy.
All the characters seem to be likable, except for the HOA people, because they're HOA people. But,
Yeah. If any of you guys that are listening are HOA people, we're right about you.
Y'all too
That's all I
busy
have to
worrying about
say.
people's fences, the flags they have, or how tall their grass is. Get a life.
When
Figure
you
it
should
out.
be worried about what you're cooking for dinner tonight for your kids who are hungry. I think that's a good place to end it for the week.
Oh, wait.
Next week is the final. Go ahead.
Wait. I have one more thing to pitch.
Okay.
I forgot. I looked at my book and I remembered. So I'm reading Catabasis by R.F. Kuang, and I am 3 chapters into this book. I am really stoked for this. It's basically about this academia. It's like an academia science fiction fantasy kind of not science fiction. It's an academia fantasy book, and it's about this girl named Alice who essentially is a graduate student and basically kills her professor. And then she's going to go to hell to go get him back because he's the only one that can write the letter of recommendation that she needs to get this academia job that she wants when she graduates. And then this boy named Peter decides that he's going to go with her. And then there's backstory. And I don't know what the backstory is yet, but I'm super stoked to find out. And right now they're in hell, and it's really, really good. And that's my pitch. Okay. Yes.
I love an academia book. And also, like, when you were describing it to me earlier, and then just now, it reminds me so much of Hadestown, like the Orpheus and Eurydice thing. Are there, like, Greek elements to it?
Yep. They actually...
Like Greek lore?
So yeah, before she goes to hell, she brings up everything that she's read about hell, like Dante's Inferno, Orpheus, all of these other types of written academia things. My brain's not working. That she read in order to get ready to go to hell, so she can kind of know what to kind of expect.
Good period. You're gonna have to keep me updated on this one because I might have to add it to my list. I said that to you earlier. I was like, I don't trust these people on the internet. I never know what is an ad or what is like a genuine opinion. So I'm glad to know that someone that is reading something that can tell me.
I mean,
truthfully.
You know what's weird is that I haven't read an actual book in like a hot minute. It's like I was reading it and my brain was like, where are the pictures?
What in the Claremont is this? All of these paragraphs. Well, yeah, keep me updated on it. Next week is our final week for Mark Waid's Fantastic Four run. And then going into May, we will announce what that is soon. But we are going to be reading just minis every week, like short little stories, and it'll be something different every week of May. And I'm also going to go ahead and tell you that it's going to be the exact same for June. So if you have been intimidated by reading a big run, like we've done so far, we're going to change it up and try something new. So be looking at our socials, which, by the way, we forgot to say at the beginning. So if you're still here, I am Uncanny Gare on TikTok and Instagram.
And I am Marsh Likes Comics on both TikTok and Instagram. I am trying to post more on Instagram, which is not a thing, but it's the trying that counts.
It's so hard. Let me tell you, I always forget. I've been like trying really hard too, but like sometimes I'm just like, nah. Like I'm very selective with what I actually put over there. But we will be releasing at least the first 2 weeks of what we're going to read this week sometime. I'm manifesting it for us right now that by Wednesday, we will know what the first 2 weeks of May are for this podcast.
We'll talk about it probably right after this.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. But know that it's going to be fun and we would love to have you join us. And since it is going to be such a small run, we'd love to be able to talk with you guys on live about it. So keep an ear out, keep an eye out, and we will update you then. That is all for me this week. Do you have any last thoughts?
That's all I have.
Same time next week.
Same bat time, same bat channel.